Hello everyone, my name is Antonio D'Souza. I hope you've just enjoyed the clip that I shared with you. It's very much akin to this whole subject that I'm going to be speaking about. First of all, I'd like to start off with this disclaimer. With the content that I'm going to be sharing with you, and by no means promoting the use of the content that I'm going to be speaking about. This is mainly for entertainment purposes. So without further ado, for quite some time, I've been looking forward to the experience that I've just had this weekend. I had planned to go on a shamanic journey for a communal setting to experience the following compounds: 5.m.e.o Dmt, Buffo and Ayahuasca. Now, what's 5.m.e.o Dmt and Buffo and Ayahuasca, might you ask? They're what or otherwise known as plant medicine, plant tech, psychoactives, psychedelics. Before I move on, I just want to share this story with you. So, since the dawn of mankind, a particular compound was used called huachuma. And the dawn of man, when tribes were formed and when tribes visited other lands looking for resources and came across other tribes, a particular compound was used whereby when they settled, they would bond for the evening. Before the following day, they would trade. And they would go through a ceremonial act, which was to drink this brew. And this brew was a psychoactive, which would its intentions were to show where a man's heart was, where his intentions were, and whether he was benevolent or malevolent. So yeah, that's what the purposes of this compound was. The following compounds I'm going to be talking about that I had this weekend. I want to share another story with you. So once upon a time, obviously in the tribes when we lived down in Mother Nature, there was the leader, the chief, the doctor, the wise man. And he was the one that was bestowed with the wisdom of the gods. He would counsel and heed with the spiritual realm. And in the story has it that one particular time a tribe was fell ill with a plague. And that the wise man went out into Mother Nature to meditate in these high states of awareness and consciousness, to seek for answers. And he was given a vision to mix these two particular plants together. And bearing in mind, especially in the Amazonian rainforest, I want to say there's about 15,000 plants, but I believe there's a lot more. But let's stay with this just for the contents of the story, to say that there's about 15,000 plants. Now, in this vision of his, he was guided to look for this particular plant and extract it in a particular process, and to gather another particular plant and extract it in a particular manner, and to join those two particular compounds together in a brew in a particular process to form a particular drink, and to have that drink, and that drink would lead him to another state of high state of altered consciousness, whereby he would be offered a vision on what next procedure to make. And that would either give him the vision to extract another particular plant, or this and the other, and how to cure and help his fellow man. So this is how the story goes. Now, this is really interesting and it's food for thought, because one of the particular compounds that I had over this weekend, known as Buffo, is extracted from an Amazonial frog, one of its kind, and is an excretion that's excreted from the neck. And with that excretion, they dry it out and it's smoked. Now you're going to ask yourself, like, at what point, what influenced this man years, centuries ago to look at this particular frog, and think it was a good idea to stimulate the organs there in the neck, which would, out from that organ, would secrete a particular compound, and then that particular compound to dry out and to smoke that compound, So food for thought, yeah? So bearing in mind the stories that I just shared with you, so far as how the wise man would seek counsel with the gods, with the spirits, and be bestowed these visions and this information. And from there, his impulse was to do the following. So talking about going back to my experience this weekend, it was 5.m.e.o Dmt, which is extracted from a particular bark with this plant. And when you smoke this compound, you have a out-of-body experience for about 15 to 20 minutes. Buffo, the excretion from the Amazonian frog, it's just the same, if not more intense. It's the strongest psychedelic known to man. So just more insight, considering the information I just shared with you. And ayahuasca is, as I shared with you in one of the stories, it was mixed with two different compounds excreted from two different plants, from the bark and the capi vine, mixed together and brewed. And when drank, you have this out-of-body experience for about 5 to 6 hours. So that's what I've done this weekend. And before I move on and share my experience, I just want to leave you with a short little clip to spark your imagination as to what to kind of expect from these sort of experiences, The best I was able to articulate it either way on video. So I hope you enjoy, and I'll be right back. So first of all, I'd like to ask you, what did you think about that whole clip? That's very much what seems to happen. You have this, you have this out-of-body experience where, strap your seatbelts on and like you enter another realm, another dimension. And just like the first video that I presented, you either met with like angels, these benevolent beings in their own world. You know what? Sometimes this feeling is as if you're back home. you're welcomed back. Or these like, what are you doing here? How'd you get here? And for me, like, one of the main reasons as well that I'm sharing this experience with you is very much influenced by a book that I spent the last year writing about called The Lockdown on Self-Love. And I was inspired by the influence that I've had after having gone down this journey in the last couple of years, when I came across these psychedelics by chance. And how can I best say this? I don't know where I would have been in this point in my time in time in my life, especially after having had a victim mentality for many years and having my internal turmoil. Very sad. Lost. And I fell into spirituality, and one of the main reasons why I meditate every day is after having had these experiences. And going back to the book that I wrote was very much inspired by wanting to get to know myself on a soul level, wanting to understand myself, and having been presented with the feeling of what it is to feel unconditional love. This knowing of what it is to be alive, this epiphany, this rebirth, so to speak, is the best way I can put it, that I'm alive. And this sadness that I've been taking this life of mine for granted. And the use of this plant tech has very much been my awakening into spirituality. And as I said, when I experience unconditional love for the first time, what does that feel like? That feels like acceptance. That feels like nothing matters. That feels like you're the most significant thing in this earth, though each and one of us are. It feels like all there is love and acceptance. It feels like everything is in divine perfection. That is such a miracle to have this experience that is to be alive, to be part of something so majestic. Now, without further ado, I arrived at this setting at the weekend, and I was met with other beautiful souls on the same journey. I just want to say that the most important thing that ever happened in my life was to get to know myself, to shut away from distraction and actually take the time and go through the process of coming to understand who I am. And I think that's the most important message that I've received all this time, to get to know who I am, other than this ego, other than this story, other than this identity. Just come to understand about this observation that I have, this awareness. Now, as I said, I arrived at the location, and I arrived at a setting where, there's sage everywhere, crystals, beautiful setting, beautiful music, beautiful people. And, we were all waiting for our turn, nervously, sweaty palms. In fact, because I was staying for the evening, I allowed myself to be, the last person, really. Just a nervous wreck. And when it came to my turn, I would have been happy, actually, to just pack up my stuff and go home. It's very much a feeling of just nervousness, just fear of the unknown. Because for one, it's about letting go and stop trying to take control, to just relax into it and allow your heart space to just be filled with best I can put it, just this anticipation for something beautiful. Otherwise, the exception of what it would be to just be nervous. Now, when it came to my turn, I sat there ready for my turn, and I first of all smoked 5.m.e.o Dmt. Now, I had to breathe out, breathe in, and then one last exhale, as much as my lungs could exhale, and then grab the pipe and smoke it. Then hold my breath, and before you know it, just like you fall back onto a mattress, obviously. And the experience that followed was, I can't recall from much from the first experience with 5.m.e.o Dmt, but it was one of which, like, the best I can describe it is as if entering the void, just darkness. As if I was back home, as if I was back to source, as if I was back to the beginning of it all, to the end of no end, where everything is just happening simultaneously, an ocean of all possibilities, a vastness of all there is and all there ever will be, in the beginning of no end. And I recall at one point where I then got myself up and I just wanted to be supported by the back wall, in this meditated state with my eyes closed, in my mind's eye. And then again, what dawned on me was this, I let go and just started crying. And that crying was joy. That awareness that I'm alive, and that perhaps sometimes I don't appreciate the entirety of what it is to be life, and how I take things for granted. So from that, the vision then just, I regained consciousness, and straight away it was to then do Buffo, as I mentioned earlier on, the strongest psychedelics known to man. So here I go, I smoke the 5.m.e.o, again, just a nervous wreck, but I set my intentions, and from a good place, just letting go and allowing whatever was to unfold, and to trust in the universe. I've got sweaty palms as I'm speaking about it. Now, once I smoked it, I fell back, and it was this feeling, I was just so tense, and my body was stiff, and I was trying to control, like my mind was just conceptualizing and trying to rationalize and make sense of it all. And I had this feeling like I just needed to let go. So I stretched out and I let out a scream. And what followed from that scream was like this feeling of like, why is it so hard to feel love? Like I just felt empty inside. I just felt so empty. And it was from there that I managed to just let go. I suppose I let out all the tension out from me, And what followed from there was then just this awareness. It was almost like I could observe and I could perceive myself, but I was everything. I was connected with life itself. I was connected with everyone. I was connected with the universe. And it was this knowing that of what it means to be alive, what it means to just be life itself. How he always just existed and always will, and this, the beauty of it, the miraculous feeling, this is hard to articulate. It's hard to articulate what it means to just understand what it is to be life force itself, and how he always has been, and how what me and you perceive with our five senses is just a fraction of what we know of what is life. But then what came to follow was then to observe and be able to perceive myself. I remember getting up, but then being so aware of my movement and my thought process. And from there, it was just a constant like trip within a trip, and this whole inception of epiphany after epiphany. And it was like this awareness that, you know, we're so critical when we have this observation within an observation, you know, and bearing in mind we've got this ego that's aware, this identity that's aware, but then there's this awareness behind the awareness. And it was just this feeling like everything is perfect, like the way I was moving, like the way I rationalize, the way I try to use my logical mind and perceive everything is just this game within a game, this mind fuck within a mind fuck, this almost like an orgasm. I put it an orgasm, this complete just this amazement, this gratification of what it is to just be able to perceive and be able to experience and be able to witness and be able to distinguish. And it was just constantly like, wow, 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 wow. And that's what I mean about this whole inception of a trip inside of a trip. Like life itself is a trip. And what I got out of it was that we conceptualize and rationalize and perceive and observe and distinguish. And it's all just an illusion. It's all a thought process. And that's the source of all creation. It all starts with thought. And your perception is based on your thought, based on where you've placed your focus. And that's the beauty of it all. To be able to just, and how everything is just flowing and connected. The most intense experience I had out of that was that I ended up crying. I ended up crying and crying and crying. Was and I'm feeling emotional as I'm speaking about it right now. Because there's been a lot of times in my life where I've criticized myself, I've criticized others, been my own worst enemy. I've judged, I've felt guilt, I felt ashamed of certain things that I've done. I felt alienated, I felt dirty, I felt like I either had a dirty secret and that others will mock me and that I'm not right and that, you know, however shape or form, you know, that shame comes about and guilt. And how it's all just an illusion. An illusion. And that's a trick. That's a trick that we're under a spell about. To be concerned about what other people think. To overthink certain situations and circumstances and experiences, and how we suppress certain desires, for example, how we suppress certain experiences, whichever way you want to describe it. And the sadness was to come to realize that part of it is kind of like almost being ashamed to be alive. And now the trick is, and the illusion is, to worry about what everyone else thinks, what your neighbors thinks, what your fellow man will think, when in its purest form, like what we came to be is this innocence. And we never lose sight. We will always remain as children. And our role is to play. Our role is to play, to enjoy, to experience. However which way that might be, you know. And nothing really matters. And all that really matters is that you come from a place of love and enjoyment. And so long as you don't bring harm to another fellow man, and place limit to his experience and his potential to just be. And so, yeah, what followed from that was very emotional. Very, very emotional. It was a beautiful experience. It was just our realization that you just are, you always will be, you're just awareness. You're just here to play, co-create, live your life to your full potential and experience that diversity, the fullness of it all in its entirety. However way you want, however way that makes you feel alive, however way that brings excitement, however the way that brings pleasure, however way that makes you feel good. Because that's what it's all about. And then it was the awareness when I started crying how we just suffer. And that's the illusion. To worry about what anyone else thinks and this and the other, when really all that matters is that you concentrate and bearing in mind about heeding counsel with the spirit world, to heed counsel with your own self. Be your biggest support. Be your own validator. Be your own best friend. Be your own support system. Be your own cheerleader. And how, yeah, the illusion is to just self-imprison yourself with this ego, which every one of us do, imprison ourselves in this illusion to just overthink. And within that thinking, there's a vastness, an ocean. And it's an infinite of all possibilities. And our job is to awaken, to come to realize what our thought process is and whether or not that serves us. And that there is no right and wrong so long as you come from a good place. And so that illusion of fear, that illusion of worry, that illusion of what if, that whole negative thought process Although at the same time it's okay. At the same time, it's that beauty, that contrast, that at the same time, whether or not we believe, we actually need that diversity just to be able to have a compass to navigate from, just to be able to experience, just to be able to learn, just to be able to feel. Just to be able to tune in, just to be able to distinguish, just to be able to yeah, so that was pretty much the experience, and it's very much one that's hard to articulate. Like, it was just information download, like, and it was so intense. I'm getting the heebie-jeebies right now. It was just, as I said, like this mind fuck, like this inception within an inception, a dream within a dream, a mind fuck within a mind fuck, where I was just constantly like in awe. And this realization, like, wow. It's just all perfect. And it's beautifully orchestrated. And something that I'll never forget is just to feel like I'm the center of it all, as each one of us are. Literally, the universe perceiving itself in its many forms. And going back to, obviously, I think the best way to depict the whole experience was exactly that. An experience. That's all it is. This is all of it is. It's an experience. Experiencing itself. Just experiences within experiences. Experiencing itself. Just for the love of it. Just for the pleasure of it. Over and over and over again. One mind fuck. Just in awe, just in constant awe and amazement. Constant orgasm after orgasm. Constant mind fuck. Just wow. Amazing. Now, this is where it gets really interesting. I'll never forget this experience all of my life. So, to follow after my experience with 5.m.e.o and Buffo, later on in the evening, we all gathered around and set our settings and set up all the mattresses everywhere and made us safe, our space safe. And to follow, we all done ayahuasca. Set the playlist on, and the music. The music. Just the most beautiful music I've listened to my whole life. Ranging from from anything that you can think of. Music for the soul. Inspirational. Just beautiful. So to cut this short, as I mentioned, so with the two first compounds that I mentioned about, the experiences last anything from 15 to 20 minutes. Now with the ayahuasca, about a 5 to 6 hour journey. We had our brew, and then it took about a couple of hours before the process within our bodies, and what's to follow is this feeling that's just undescribable. Is this whole high state of awareness, this tuning in with life force itself, this buzzing, this overwhelming feeling, this altered state of awareness. At the same time, this feeling of sickness that you're trying to control. And throughout the night, there's something called purging, which is you vomit. And when you have ayahuasca, there's very much this feeling like there's this female presence, this divine feminine. And it is said that it's a feminine spirit, a motherly spirit. And the whole point of the medicine is to heal the mind, body, and soul. And so with the mother spirit, she's there to help you. She's there to cradle you. She's there to support you. And whenever anyone purges, it's because certain stuff is coming out, like suppressions, trauma. And so, best part of the night, many people are vomiting. And I was a surreal experience because I felt like I wanted to be sick. And when anybody else was being sick, it's like, oh, here we go, like just trying to control it. I didn't really want to be sick. I felt like I could be. But, that feeling of being sick for one. Ugh. So I'm going to keep this short, but basically my whole experience was as follows. Throughout this whole vision, all I saw was treasure upon treasure upon treasure. Like treasure cases, gold, diamonds, gems, just mountains of mountains and mountains of mountains of treasure. And then like neon lights as vivid, as more real than what I perceive in reality. The colors, the detail. And that's what I mean, just treasure upon treasure upon treasure, and then in neon lights as vivid and as bold as you can imagine. Just love, written love everywhere. And what I got from that was that the treasure is love. And it's something I'm sure we can all relate, where we want love from our partners, from our family. We want to give them love. And we should be loving our neighbors. We should be loving our experience. We should be loving our planet. And with that, we should be loving the species that we commune with and that we coexist with. And we ought to love our neighbours and support one another and encourage us to live our best lives and remind us about our limited beliefs, which is our ego, the limitations that we impose onto ourselves, that we sabotage ourselves with, to awaken from the dream, the illusion, the spell, which is what I mentioned about what I experienced with the Buffo, this illusion that we place ourselves with, when all there is really is an infinite of all possibilities. And it all starts with a thought. And that perception, that reality is formed from where you place your focus and what you choose to attach to. And so going back to my vision about that the treasure is love, and that all there is for us to have this experience, is to make the most of it and ride the bull by the horns and have a whale of a time. We're all born, and none of us are given a manual. We're not taught how to feel. We're not taught how to think. We're not taught how to manage our responses. And then when I talk about this whole illusion, it's this whole illusion of taking life for granted. Just, like, for example, how many of us wake up in the morning and like, whoa, hey, come on, let's do this, I can relate for a long time where, I would go to sleep and all I would think about is what happened throughout the day, that conversation I had that I wish I would have gone differently. Or this situation I wish I would have handled differently. And going through all the negatives and then waking up already thinking about the negatives, like how I'm going to survive for the day, how I'm going to manage. When I hope what I can inspire with this whole message is to just what I felt. That we literally just, here we are, alive, life itself. And how you can feel anything you want. And it's just a matter of heeding counsel with your own self and getting to know yourself on a soul level. And come to understand the limitations and the sabotages that you've imposed yourself with the formation of thought processes that you've formed. And so being able to better understand on how to make your next move and navigate. And being aware of what you're attaching and latching onto. That's all I have to say for now. What I want to share something else as well. I'll never forget this experience. So throughout the evening, there was a particular chap who was also, all of us were doing ayahuasca, and midway, he was having a really good time, At one point, he was like, wow, oh my God, this is amazing. This is fucking unbelievable. Wow, like, and mind fucked he was. And that kept going on for about 3 hours. He was having a really good time, but at some points he was screaming to the top of his lungs, oh my God, this is fucking unbelievable. And I was in hysterics. I've never cried so hard in hysterics. Just laughing and laughing and laughing. And at one point, we kind of had to all gather up together and help him out to kind of wake him up from the experience that he was having. But it came at great cost, and I mean, at great cost as in, we had to take ourselves out from our own experiences and be supportive, And that went on for about 2 to 3 hours time where he was just literally on this loop of like, oh my God, this is fucking unbelievable. And screaming from the top of his lungs. And, it was very stressful for some of us. And for me, I couldn't help myself but to laugh. I couldn't help it. Just crying. Thankful for this experience and just reminding everyone, like, you do know how blessed we are. You're like, what a magnificent night, because on top of everything, he's like, thank God. Oh, this is the best. Oh, peace and love, man. Peace and love. Fucking unbelievable. And it was at any time he was like, thank God. I was just there like, thank you for this experience. Anyhow, that's all I have to share. Feel free to like, feel free to comment, feel free to get in touch. As I said, I wrote a book called The Lockdown on Self-Love. And I'm currently launching a book club that's campaigning for the next couple of months. I'll share a link in the description. Feel free to sign up to my newsletter, whereby I share my story, whereby I reverse engineered my whole life to come to understand who I am and share all the lessons I've learned along the way and share my experiences. And what came to be the hardest realization that I came to understand in the last few months, where I very much had a victim mentality, whereby I hated myself and took life for granted. And I'm so thankful for this journey I'm on, because I found spirituality. I found a connection that I've been looking for this whole time, one of which myself, really. To come to understand that the most important relationship there is and ever will be is the one with yourself, whereby I was seeking that from others. I was seeking happiness from others, seeking counsel from others, and I was, and never mind, I didn't even know anything about self-love, really. Anyhow, guys, I hope you've enjoyed this experience I've shared with you, and loads of love. Thank you for watching. Feel free to like, subscribe. That will help with my algorithms, and be nice to hear other people's experiences and what you thought about the whole experience that I've just mentioned about. I hope it's been very entertaining. Loads of love. Bye.